Hello and welcome back to the Imagine with Keira podcast. I'm very excited for today's episode because we're doing something a little bit different. I know I've been interviewing a lot of the current teen state title holders, but we're actually going to go to a little bit of a throwback of forever. And I will be interviewing Jessica Baeder. She was Miss America's Outstanding Teen a few years back, and I actually got to meet her in person when I was a Miss California Princess. And I think she is one of the coolest people. I've looked up to her for years, and I can't believe I get to interview her today. So please stick around, and I will catch y'all when she hops on. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Imagine with Keira podcast. I'm super excited to have a very special guest today, and I'll have her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Baeder, and I was Miss America's Teen 2018.
So exciting, and you've done so much more than that too, and I cannot wait to get into all of those great accomplishments of yours. So first off, I'd love to hear how your journey in the Miss America organization started, and kind of give us a debrief of what that path looked like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So growing up, I didn't really know much about pageants. The only thing that I knew was that my mom was Miss North Carolina. So like growing up, I thought my mom was the queen. Like she was Miss North Carolina. It was the coolest thing in the world. But I didn't really get involved in pageants until we went back for the 75th anniversary of Miss North Carolina. And they had like a ton of performers come back. And so my mom went and brought me and all my sisters. And that was the first time that I had seen it. And I was like, there's a teen portion, because at the time I was 13 or 14. So I was like eligible to compete in teen. I just had never heard of it. And so I like sat through the whole competition. I thought it was the coolest thing. And afterwards I like told my mom, I was like, I want to do this. Like, this is awesome. And so after that, she was like, okay, like you're going to have to get prepared. Like we're going to have to start like practicing and like working at it. Like you can't just show up one day and decide you want to do it. So I competed in my first pageant when I was 15, and it was really small. It was Miss Lee County Fair's Outstanding Teen at the time. And I had got my dress like a week before. Like it was really last minute, even though I like knew I wanted to do this, it all just happened last minute. And I ended up winning, which I was not expecting. It was supposed to be like a practice, like let's just see how this goes. And then after that, I was like, I'm going to state. Okay. So I kind of like got thrown into it really quickly, but I love the organization. I love the girls. I love just the atmosphere of competing for a purpose. And I think that's what the Miss America organization does really well, is that you're not just competing for a crown and a sash, you're competing to have an impact on your community, your state, and hopefully the nation. So that's really what drew me in. And then about 3 years later, I won Miss Alabama's teen and then went on to Miss America's teen.
That's so awesome. I would love for you to share with everyone about your talent. Actually, when you went to come watch Miss California as Miss America's Outstanding Teen, I was a Miss California Princess. And so I remember watching you do your talent from backstage, which is crazy memory, but I'd love for you to share your journey in dance.
Yeah, so I grew up dancing since I was little. My dad owned a martial arts studio in a strip mall, and like 2 doors down was the dance studio. So I was already there. And so I started doing dance right next door to where my dad worked, and I loved it. I grew up doing all different kinds of styles, like ballet, jazz, hip hop, contemporary, really anything they offered. I was like signed up for it. But I really loved ballet and ballet on point. And so my talent that I ended up going to Miss America's Teen with, and that when I traveled around, I would perform, was jazz on point to Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy. So it was fun, that style, to kind of incorporate a lot of different aspects of dance that I love, like the upbeat jazz, but also like being on point and being able to execute those skills was super fun. And then the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy was a nod to me when I was 18, thinking I was going to be in the Army, and then now I am in the Army. So it's kind of cool that that came full circle.
Yeah, and that song is like the perfect choice for you. It was amazing. I loved it. Let's see, what else? How much scholarship money did you earn throughout your time as Miss America's Outstanding Teen and before?
It's hard to put an actual number on it. It's been a minute, but so winning Miss Alabama's Outstanding Teen, I got about 4 full ride scholarships to
Wow.
different schools in the state of Alabama. So whatever that adds up to it was amazing. It's really special that the universities in the state like support the program as much as they do. And they see that, the girls that are competing, we have a lot to bring to a university, and they recognize that. And then at Miss America's teen, I won $30,000 in scholarship. And I was actually able to, so I get a lot of questions like, going to West Point, no one pays to go to West Point. You pay with your years in service. And so I got a lot of questions like, how does that work with the scholarship money? And you don't necessarily pay a tuition to go to West Point, but there's still a lot of fees associated with like books and uniforms and all of that. So I was still able to use that money when I attended West Point.
That's awesome that all still worked out. So
Yeah,
perfect.
absolutely.
I'd love to know what your favorite memory was throughout your year as Miss America's Outstanding Teen.
I think it's a hard one to pick a number
I know,
one,
there's so
but
many.
I know. I think that my favorite memory, well, as a whole, my favorite opportunity that I got to do was to work with all the Children's Miracle Network hospitals. I talked about it when I was competing and in my interviews that between the ages of 6 and 10, I was a child of children's. And so I had some kidney issues and I underwent surgery. And for those 4 years, I was back and forth between my house and the hospital. I don't remember a ton of it. The main things that I remember is how sweet the nurses were, and like I would get popsicles every time I went. So I have like a lot of good memories associated with it. But it was pretty traumatic for my parents to know the depth of what I was going through every time I had to go to the hospital. So being involved in an organization that has such a connection with CMNH was really special. And I like tell my mom all the time, I'm like, I don't think I could ever have a job that I can brighten up someone's day so quickly as when you're Miss America. Like when you walk into a room, a child's room who's in a hospital, who's going through just unimaginable things, but you walk in and you have a crown on your head, like immediately they think you're a princess and they just have an even better day just because you're there. And that impact was really my favorite. Specifically, I got the opportunity to go to Orlando, Florida. And they had like a whole conference of like the champions of children's. And so I think it was each state nominated a child. And so just getting to meet them and hear their stories. And then at the end of the week, we all got to go to Disney World. And I was so lucky that I made such a connection with one of the children there and with their parents. And I just kind of like tagged along on their family vacation at Disney World. And it was the most fun I've ever had.
Oh, that's so cool. What a full circle moment. Wow. That's an amazing opportunity.
Awesome.
I love it. Let's see what else. What was your platform when you were competing? And then like, what were you able to do with that as Miss America's Outstanding Teen?
Yeah, so my platform was Healthy Food for All. And so my platform kind of like evolved as I was competing in the organization over the 3 years. So it started because my mom specifically has been very much like healthy eater. Like this is what she wanted to implement in our family. And it stemmed from her being diagnosed with breast cancer when I was in the 4th grade. And I didn't really know a lot that was going on. I was like maybe 8 years old, but I knew like our diet changed. Like the foods that we were eating before were a lot different because my mom really believed like food was medicine. And my mom is strong and healthy now, praise the Lord. But it did change the way that I thought about food. And so initially, I just kind of wanted to spread that message to children of like, food really can be medicine and, we need to think about what we're eating. But as I was going around to different schools in the state of Alabama, I realized that not a lot of kids had the opportunity to eat healthy and they didn't have those options because of a thing that's called food deserts. So a food desert is defined as an area where there's not fresh produce for more than 30 miles. And in the state of Alabama, it's very sparse sometimes. Like there's a lot of rural communities and they're getting their groceries from a Dollar General. And so they don't have opportunities to get fresh produce like that. So then it changed to Healthy Food for All and how do we get healthy food to everyone? So then I had the opportunity to talk with state and US legislation about bringing healthy food to these food deserts. And one of the things that I would do was with local YMCAs. they would have a bus that would go around and give lunches to kids, just like in their neighborhood. Like the bus would drive through and the kids would know, like, hey, we can get a free lunch. And they had like tables. They like renovated this whole school bus. It was really cool. They had like tables and chairs and stuff so the kids could eat on the bus. And so I would just like ride around with them through the neighborhoods, and it was really awesome. It was one of my favorite things.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I love always seeing with people how their service initiative or platform develops over the years as they learn more
Yeah.
about it. That's so
Mm-hmm.
cool. So let's see. So after you gave up your title as Miss America's Outstanding Teen, and then you went off to college at West Point, what was your
Mm-hmm.
experience there like?
Yeah. So I initially started the cadet basic training at West Point on July 2nd, 2018. So I hadn't given up my title yet.
Wow.
And I went in and was able to talk with the superintendent, who was a 3-star general, and he signed off that I would be able to miss 48 hours of training to fly to Orlando, crown the next Miss America's teen, and then fly back. So I'm super grateful that he gave me that opportunity. I wasn't able to be there the whole week, which I was really sad about, but to still be able to pass along the crown meant so much to me. So that was super special. And then, yeah, that was probably the biggest change that I could go through, going from traveling around, talking to people about my platform, talking with them about, the community service obligations that I'm able to do, to going to cadet basic training was such a 180. And it was hard. I'm not going to sit here and say that it was like an easy thing. It was definitely one of the hardest things that I've done going through all 4 years at West Point. But I am grateful for it. I'm grateful for the friendships, the mentors, just the life lessons that it taught me. And now it's put me in a great position and I have a great job right now.
That's awesome. I'd love for you to share what you're doing right now with the Army and what
Yeah.
that experience has been like as well.
Yeah, so I'm currently stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord in Washington State, and it's a joint base, so we have Army and Air Force both at this base. But I am a field artillery officer, and the way I explain to people who don't know the Army, because I don't expect anyone to like understand what I'm saying when I talk about the Army, but we shoot big guns from far away. So I was a data science and math major in college, and I didn't really think that that would apply to the Army. But the job that I'm in right now does take a lot of math. So I'm thankful to have that background and being able to use it.
That's great. Let's see what else I got here. So I also noticed when I was like stalking your Instagram to figure out questions for you that you were on the cheer team at West Point, which is
Yes, I
amazing.
was.
I'd love to hear what that experience was. If you have any special memories of that, I'd love to hear those as well.
Yes, I love being on the cheer team. So, I mean, obviously, I was a performer and I wanted to find any way that I could perform. And West Point does have a dance team, but they're pretty small, and they don't have the opportunity to compete. So I did that my freshman year, and it was really fun. I love that experience. But then my sophomore year, I tried out for cheer, and I didn't know anything about cheer. Like I never was a cheerleader. I only danced. But I was just so willing to learn and like really excited to just be a part of a team again. And so joining the West Point cheer team was really one of my favorite memories. And I have lifelong friends from that, which is awesome. And I think my favorite memory was getting to go to Daytona, Florida and compete. I've been to a lot of dance competitions, but it was something I'd never experienced. Like dance is stressful, but in cheer, like there's just so many things that are just up to chance, so many things that can go wrong. Like I don't think I've ever had the most fun while also being the most stressed in my life.
I know dance to cheer, it's so similar, but it's also a full 180, I've noticed.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's super cool. Let's see. Yeah, so what's next for you? Obviously, you're in this job right now in Washington State.
Mhm.
What are your future ambitions in your career?
Yeah, so right now, in the Army, I only know kind of what's coming up in the short term. So I do know that I'll have the opportunity to go on a 9-month deployment to Korea starting in October.
Wow.
So that'll be really interesting. I've heard a lot of people really like it and they think it's really cool. So definitely getting the opportunity to travel, which is really awesome. And then right now I'm still kind of toying with the thought of like, do I stay in the Army? Do I get out of the Army and pursue a different career? So I'm not super set on either one of those right now, but just excited for the opportunity that I am currently in and trying to make the most of it.
Absolutely. I would love to know what the biggest lesson you learned was when you were Miss America's Outstanding Teen.
I think the biggest lesson that I learned, not just when I was Miss America's Teen, but just like the entire time in the organization, was just to not take any situation and not take yourself too seriously. Like I remember one of the prelims, I think it might have been the second preliminary competition at Miss America's Outstanding Teen, and it was my onstage question. And I thought I butchered it. I thought it was just the worst thing that has ever come out of my mouth. Like I was so upset. And we like after the show, like went and met with like friends and family, and like all those pictures from that night, like I'm crying. Like I couldn't stop crying. And I just like I didn't take the opportunity to just be like happy and thankful for the position that I was in. Like I was just so hard on myself and just thought that like it like nothing else meant anything. Like I just lost everything, instead of like taking a step back and being like, you're here. Like that is more than enough to just like be able to be here and like meet all these wonderful women and just have the opportunity to make friendships and memories. And so looking back on that, I just laugh at myself. I'm like, that was just so silly. Like, why was I so, I don't know, just like obsessed with being perfect? And I think that that just goes for like everything that you do during your year, from like a local title holder to the national title holder. Like you'll have opportunities for appearances and like meeting people. And so many times I walked away just like over analyzing everything I said and just being like, that wasn't good enough. That wasn't perfect. Instead of being like, this is super cool. Like when else do I have the opportunity to like talk to state and US legislators?
Yeah.
Like just taking everything in instead of like nitpicking everything apart.
Yeah, definitely. I love the new branding of Miss America as an opportunity too, because I feel like
Mhm.
it's helping to separate from that, because it can be so easy
Yeah.
to start to judge yourself on those things. So when you look at it as an
Mhm.
opportunity, I agree. I think that helps. Well, this
Yeah.
has been amazing. You are incredible. I
Oh,
would
thank
love
you.
for you to share where people can follow you on social media so they can see what the future holds for you, because I'm sure it's going to be amazing. So,
Yeah, yeah.
awesome.
Um, my Instagram is Jessica_Baeder, so you can follow me there and see all the updates on my life. Right now, it's mainly just like my dog, but you can see those updates too if you want. But yeah, it's been so fun talking to you, and I can't wait to watch your journey as well.
Thank you so much. Well, again, you're amazing, and I really appreciate you doing this. And
Of
I
course.
cannot wait to share this interview with everyone. So, have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, I'm like starstruck right now. She is just the coolest. I know I say that about everybody that I interview because they all are really, really cool. But this one holds a special place in my heart because I did get to see her as Miss America's Outstanding Teen. And she's someone I've looked up to for a very long time. As you can tell, she's so well spoken, so talented, so driven, and um, so resilient. She's incredible. Well, thank you so much for checking out today's podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the Imagine with Keira podcast, feel free to reach out. My email is imaginewithkeira. Keira is Keira @gmail.com. You can also reach me through Instagram at Miss Fresno County's Teen or at Imagine with Keira. And this podcast is released often. Depends on how much I'm feeling. I try to do at least every other week. Sometimes it's every day. Never know. But it's out on YouTube and Spotify. You can find it by searching Imagine with Keira. Thank you so much for joining me today. Be water, my friend. I am Keira Bixler, and this is Imagine with Keira.